Hello, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Willoughby. So I am here today to do our tutorial video for the third grade staff portrait drawing. So I am just going to let you know that portraits are definitely not my strength in art. It's something I have to work on. I know it's a little challenging, but I'm going to try to go through some steps that'll help make it a little easier for you. The portraits that we are going to do aren't going to be hyper realistic. That would require, a lot of shading and a lot of technique. We are basically doing kind of line portraits, laying down the lines and then using our crayons or colored pencils to color in the portrait. So it's not really a cartoon, but it's a little bit more of a cartoonish portrait than a super realistic portrait, but we are trying to capture the likeness of the face. So if you look at the papers that you received, and if you didn't get them, you can see them here. There are several different typical shapes of heads. So we have heart-shaped heads, longer faces, a rounder head, a more oval, and then we have more of kind of a square. You can see when you're drawing the initial shape of the face, it's not just the face that you're drawing. You're actually drawing the top of the head that you're able to see. So the hair does take up some of that space. So until we get the hair in, it might look a little strange. So I did practice with a portrait and I chose Mrs. Tipton. I wanted to pick one of the third grade teachers. So here is Mrs. Tipton's school picture. And then my original portrait. Some things I'm happy with, some things I'm not. That's how art goes. If you look at the portrait that I did, you can see I actually set the eyes a little too high, which made Miss Tipton's nose a little bit too long there and gave her kind of a shorter forehead area. So it put her face a little bit out of proportion. The placing of the eyes is very important. When we draw the head, the eyes are actually going to go in the middle of it, which I know is going to seem low, but again, you have to keep in mind we're going to have that hair and the top of the head to add in. So we are going to start with our face shape. If we look at Miss Tipton's face shape, it's a little harder to see. It's kind of a square or an oval shaped face and head. So everybody's is different. The reason I say it's kind of square, her jaw is just a little more square down there. So it's kind of a mix between that oval and that square shape. So our very first thing we have to do for our portrait is to get that face shape down. If you have to do erasing while you're doing that, that's fine. It takes a little while to get the shape that you want. So I'm trying to make sure that you can see my paper. I might have to go over these lines and hold the paper up to show them to you a little bit better. It's always hard to do these videos because your initial lines, you want to be pretty light. So I'm going to start kind of with the top of Miss Tipton's head here. And I can see, I want to be pretty close to the top of the paper. And I want to do the top of her head is pretty well rounded. And we're going to, try to ignore her hair there and bring that shape then down to just what her face is really going to be. So we're going to come down here and come down to the chin. And I want to try to make that chin on the same spot. And I'm going to come down like that. So when I can see that you can't really see this line that I've made. I'm going to darken it up for you a little bit here. So that you can see it. All right, so, oh, that is a little, oh, there we go. So you can see that head shape right there. All right, so our next step, we are actually going to mark some lines on our face to mark off where certain parts of the face are going to go. So like I said, we want to do our eyes basically halfway down the face. So I'm actually going to use a ruler. If you don't have a ruler, you can always measure with 2 fingers. It's not quite as accurate, but that can still give you a method to be able to find halfway down the face. So I have to kind of turn my paper to do this. I'm going to go from the top of the head to the bottom of the chin. And it's just right over 7 inches. So I want to mark a line at about 3.5 inches. And I'm going to try to do that line a little bit to the side also, but still using the measurements of the very top of the head and the chin. But by having more than one line, that gives us a better line to line up and make sure that it's something straight and consistent. So you're going to want to make that line pretty lightly. Again, since I need you to be able to see what I'm doing, I'm going to mark mine a little darker. That's going to make it a lot harder to erase. So I might have some residue. So try to keep those lines a little lighter. And you can see here, I've split the head completely in half. And I know it looks extremely low, but when we fill in that hair and the eyebrows and all of those things, it really is going to come together. So the next line that I am going to suggest that you're going to make, so, if you follow along with the worksheet that I gave you, we're doing the eyes. And then it says, draw a line 1/4 of the way up between the center of the eye and the top of the head. This is where the eyebrows generally sit. So you can see we really need to go ahead and draw our eyes before we can move on to anything else. And I almost forgot, we actually need to split this face in half the other way too, so that we know where the center of the face is. So if I measure right along this line, I'm right under 5 inches. So it's going to be a little less than 2.5 inches is where I'm going to make that center mark. And I'm going to try to line that up then with the, the point of the chin here. And draw that line. So we've got this T shape right there. So I'm going to darken this line so that you can see it a little bit better. And we have successfully split the face into 4 separate quarters. Okay. So now we want to draw the eyes. So the thing about the eyes is that across this line that we have made, technically we would be able to fit side by side about 5 eyes. That would be 1 on each side, 1 in the middle, and then 1 on each side there. So I know that this was right under 5 inches. So I'm going to split this face into 5 equal sections here so that I can see where to make my eyes. So I'm going to go right under 1 inch, right under 1 inch, right under 1 inch, right under 1 inch. And I can see somehow I have miscalculated those because they did not end up lining up. So let's try that again. All right. So we've got these 5 equal sections now. And that means that our eyes, okay, you can't see those very well. I'm going to darken these again. These lines right here. Here, let me put some more paper behind this when I hold it up. Okay, so you can see I've made these 5 lines across. So basically I want to leave kind of an eye in the middle. And then, so my 2 eyes are going to go over there. And this one looks like it's just a little bit off there. Again, I know we're measuring, but they weren't quite exact measurements. So we want to make sure that everything is, you know, really lining up there. So let's see if our distance across these 2 eyes matches. This one ended up a little bit bigger. Again, sometimes you just have to make do some erasing, but we definitely want to make sure our 2 eyes, unless you're drawing someone that it's noticeable that their eyes are different sizes, you know, we want to make sure that those are pretty much the same size. So one eye is going to go right here, and then the other eye will go right in between these 2. So if you go back a page in your packet, you are going to find some drawings of kind of what a typical eye, a typical ear, a typical nose, a typical mouth is going to look like. You know, obviously everyone is a little bit different. You might have to make a little bit of changes, but some things in the eye to remember is we have this corner of the eye called the Lacrimal Carnem. So that's that little thing that comes down in your eye. One mistake that a lot of people make is when they draw this iris of the eye, the colored part of the eye, they make that really too big. And even in my original, I think I did that a little too big. There's a lot of white of the eye that's still kind of, that shows. And then the lashes, I know we always want to give these beautiful big lashes, but you know, as you can see in these pictures, the lashes, individual lashes really don't stand out that much. So we're not going to go overboard with those. So I'm going to look at Miss Tipton's eyes. You know, the basic eye is kind of almond shaped, and I can see that hers is similarly almond shaped. So I'm going to look at my picture of the eye, and I'm going to draw the top of one eye with that almond shape. And the bottom of that eye. And they're going to meet right where I made that line. So I can erase that line now. And then that's where I'm going to add that little Lacrimal Carnuncle. So it's just a little, I think it needs to go up just a little bit. Again, you're probably going to find yourself erasing a lot as you do this, and that's okay. You know, we have not worked on portraits a lot. I know that some of you were able to get your half portraits done, but I also realized that not everybody did get that done. So, all right, so we've got the first eye, and before we move on to anything else, we want to go ahead and do that second eye because we really want to try to match the two eyes to each other. So again, we're doing kind of this almond shape. And I'm really trying to match that other eye. And when I look at this, I can see that I need to go up a little more there. And then come down. And that looks like it matches a lot better. Okay, and then we're going to do the bottom of the eye again. Keeping with that almond shape. And I'll tell you that getting these curves to match up is one of the hardest part of doing the eyes, is getting the curves on each of them to be similar. Because if I look right now, this eye looks just a little bit smaller. So that means I need to go down just a little bit further with that curve. And this takes a lot of time in the beginning, getting, you know, the eyes right. But it makes a huge difference in your portrait if your eyes are not, you know, matching each other. So I'm going to erase these lines. And again, on mine, you are going to be able to see these lines that I'm erasing when I'm done, because I did have to draw them a little bit darker. So I'm going to do that little corner of the eye there. Okay, and we have two eyes that are matching each other now, and they're split basically in half by that center line. All right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and erase the line inside of the eyes. I want to leave the rest of the line because we might need to use that later on to make sure some things are lining up, but we're not going to need it really in the center of the eye anymore. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is where this Lacrimal Carnuncle, or the corner of the eye, is. I'm going to close that off. Let's see. That is really hard to see. Let me see if I can. Okay, so I've got it closed off right here, rounded it off. Okay. Sorry, everything is backwards when I do it in the camera and it throws me off. Let me get rid of some of that paper. Move this back over a little bit. Okay. Next, we want to draw the iris of the eye. Okay, so that is the colored part of the eye. So it's actually going to be, I'm going to start at the bottom like a circle. And go up. Let me darken that up a little bit. And then you can't see the very top part of the circle, right? But you can still see a lot of the whites of the eyes. So let me darken this whole eye up now. All right, so now again, hard part, getting this eye to match this eye. So we want to try to make our circle start in the same place over here and go up in the same type of curve, right? And I've already made it a little too small. Erase that, come back at the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to darken that whole eye now. And now we have our two eyes with irises that are looking pretty similar. I can see that I need to make the top just a little smaller on this one. Bring it out a little bit on that one. All right, so we have two eyes now. And then we're also going to need the pupil of the eye. So I'm going to draw circles there for the pupils. And when we color those pupils in, we want to leave a little dot where the light is hitting the eye. Okay, that's something we're going to leave there. All right, so we have our two eyes. We have the rest of our grid. So now we're going to move on to that step 2, or I'm sorry, the step 3 on the next page. So it says, draw a line 1/4 of the way up between the center of the eye and top of the head. This is where the eyebrows generally sit. Okay, so if I measure from the center of the eye all the way up, that's 3.5. So, oh my, I got to do some math here. So 3.5 divided by 4. So that's going to be about, about 0.8. So we want to go up about 8/10 from the corner of the eye. And I'm going to make a line there. And then on the other side, I'm going to go to the center of the eye and make that same line. I'm going to connect those lines, and I made this one dark so you could see it. So now we have a line where our eyebrows are going to go. Okay, so for our eyebrows, we want the corner or the inside of our eyebrow to come just a little bit past that corner of the eye. Okay, and they're going to end, if I take a diagonal line up here, they're going to end about there. So now I'm going to draw my eyebrows in. So I'm going to look at Miss Tipton's eyebrows, which are kind of hard to see in her picture because of her glasses. So for right now, you know, her glasses I think are going to cover a lot of this up, but I want to go ahead and do some eyebrows for you. So I'm going to make these lines on the inside a little longer. And I am going to, you know, our eyebrows are going to curve up. And then they are going to come down a little bit below that line that we made. And again, I'm looking to try to make these as similar as possible. And I've got one just a little bit bigger. Give me just a second. So, you know, that's a lot of what this is. Sometimes is just looking at what you've drawn, comparing it to the other side. You know, our faces, although they are not completely symmetrical, they are close to symmetrical. So when we're drawing, you know, especially in a drawing like this, where we're not going hyper realistic, you know, one of our goals is that we are looking at that symmetry. All right, so now I'm gonna darken these eyebrows. Which right now I just have a basic outline. When we color them in, you know, that's when we'll add kind of some more of the texture. So you can see those two eyebrows now right above the eyes, okay? And you can see that's making the forehead look a little smaller than kind of what it looked like before. All right, so we're gonna go to our next step. So we have step 4, draw a line halfway between the eyes and the bottom of the head. This is where the bottom of the nose sits. Okay, so we're gonna measure. What do I have here from the eyes? So that's this line we've already made. And I've got about 3.5 inches. So if I split that in half, that's going to be 1.5 inches plus 1/4 of an inch. So about 1 3/4 of an inch. So there's 1.5. 1 3/4 is going to be right there. And I can measure down 1 3/4 from the sides. And I'm going to draw, and again, I am making my lines way darker than what I'm supposed to be to help you be able to see what we're doing. So do not draw your lines this hard or this dark. We want to be able to erase those. So you can see now, if you look at my original picture and you look at this picture, you know, you can see that the space between the eyes and the bottom of the nose was just too large on this first one that I did. So this is going to shorten that up just a little bit there. Okay. So we're starting to get our face down. So now we need to draw our nose, right? And I know that noses are super hard to draw. So we are going to be learning kind of a simplified way to draw a straight on nose from a front view. Okay, so one thing we want to keep in mind is from where these brows are to the inside of the eyes. That's basically kind of where the structure of our nose starts, right? We've got this bone that goes right there. So I'm just going to kind of lightly draw in that line. Okay, I'm going to draw it a little darker. Makes me so nervous to draw this darkly. Okay. And we're just kind of marking that right now. So if you go back a page in your packet, we're going to look at this nose part, okay? So we've got a few parts to the nose. We've got, I guess this is the ala. The septum is that pointy part of the nose, and then we've got the nostrils, okay? And you can't see a ton of the nostrils in a lot of pictures, but we are going to include those. So we're going to look at the tip of Miss Tipton's nose. And if you look at the tip, you can see almost kind of a circle shape. And some people have smaller circle shapes. Some people have larger circle shapes. That's gonna help get us kind of the basis of that nose down. So right above this line, we're going to draw how big that circle is. And Miss Tipton, actually, the tip of hers is pretty small. So you know, and I want to use that center line to help me to make sure my circle is kind of equal on both sides. So you can see I've drawn this little circle right here. Obviously, we're not going to leave that as a circle. So we're going to kind of go back here. And we know that this bottom line is the bottom of that, or the bottom of the circle line is the bottom of the septum. So we're going to come up off that septum. And we're going to kind of go up in a curve a little bit where the nostrils are going to be. Okay. And then next to that, we're going to make these curved lines here. So now if we erase the top of that circle, again, mine's a little harder, you know, to, okay, and we can kind of fill in a little bit of darkness here where the nostrils would be. We'll color over that later. Miss Tipton kind of has a cute little nose, so now we have our nose shape. And again, I am going to darken all of these lines. So that you can see them better. All right. So we have eyes, eyebrows, we have a nose. So we are going to move on to the mouth. And actually when we get to the mouth, we're at about 35 minutes on this video. So I'm going to stop the video. I will be recording for the next step. You guys can watch that whenever you want to, but I want to give you a break here. Okay, so our lips. If we turn back, it says, step 5, draw a line which sits 1/3 between the bottom of the nose and the bottom of the chin. This is the line where the middle of the lips sit. Now, in our picture, we have people that are smiling. It was picture day. So our lips aren't just going to be split. So it's going to be, though, about where the corners of the mouth would be. Because even when I smile, you know, the corners go up a little bit, but not too much. So it's at 1/3 of the way between the bottom of the nose. So I'm going to measure from the bottom of the nose to the bottom of the chin. I'm going to get about 2 inches, well, a little less. Let's see, about 1 3/4 of an inch. And I want to split that into thirds. So I know 4/4 and 3/4 is 7/4. So if I split 7 into 3s, it's a little over 2/4. So we're talking a little over 1/2 inch down from the bottom of the nose. And again, I'm gonna mark that line a couple of times so that I can get a nice straight. I just don't feel that, hang on. I'm sorry, my measurements may be off. All right, we're gonna go down just a little bit. Let's look at Miss Tipton's. I'm sorry, guys, this is just doing art sometimes. You have to really, you know, I really do think that's probably gonna be about right. That's about where the corners of her mouth are gonna be, okay? So I'm gonna draw that line across. Again, much darker than I normally would. And like I said, that's going to be kind of the corner of her lips. And by making that the corner, and I can see that the corner of her lips when she smiles, because Miss Tipton has a bright, beautiful, big smile. So when she smiles, the corners of her mouth come all the way under the center of her iris. So I'm going to kind of use that as a judgment, and I'm just going to kind of mark where those corners are going to be. Okay, so they're right under the center of her iris. I have them marked with a couple little dots there. Okay, now this is kind of going to be the top of where the top of her lip is. If you look at her smile, the top of her lip is pretty straight when she smiles. It's really the bottom that goes down, right? So I'm going to draw this down to the center line. And then the same on this side. Okay. And you can see it's starting to look more like a person. I hope it looks like Miss Tipton. And then I'm going to actually erase this line here. so that I can draw the top of her mouth, which is pretty straight across where her teeth are, right? So the inside of her smile looks something like that. And the line's right here. So now we just have to kind of add her lips to that, right? So we know, we can see that the lips are the thickest on the bottom, like right in the middle. And then they get thinner as they go up and meet that corner. So thickest in the middle, and then they get thinner as they go up and meet that corner, okay? And the top of her lips, right, we're gonna have we're gonna show a little bit, can you see that? So where the lips are, I did kind of a shape. Where did I draw it? Kind of a V shape, you know, where her lips are, and they're gonna kind of round out and then join up with that corner of her mouth. All right, so I'm going to darken these lines for you again. So that you can really see how we've done the lips. All right, so we've got that right there. Got that smile. I know it's still looking a little crazy, and when obviously adding hair makes a big difference. But these are so far the basic parts of the face we want to get down before we move on. So once you've gotten this far, then you'll be able to move on to the next video. As always, if you have questions for me, please send me an email, willoughbyk@psarrows.com, willoughbyk@psarrows.com. I am going to try to do a couple of Zooms in the next couple weeks if people need some more individual help. And don't give up. You saw me, I erased a lot. And I'm already a lot happier with this one than I am with the first one that I did. So, you know, that's why, that's what we're doing here in art, is we're trying to, you know, really learn what we're doing. And in fact, I just looked right now and I think maybe these eyebrows might need to be brought down. So we'll look at that next time. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you next time.